What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 20 of the Flex RX. It has been going weekly for the last, I think I was in Italy for 1 week, but about 5 months. So pretty cool stuff. But we're going to be diving in for today for this episode. And the topic of today is going to be look at the scoreboard, or the importance of a scoreboard. So I've read one of my favorite books of all time is probably going to be The One Thing by Gary Keller. Phenomenal book. And so let me write some of this down on the Jamboard. So the idea in The One Thing is that what is the one thing that you can focus on that makes everything else either unnecessary or just far less kind of important by comparison. So the idea of the scoreboard. So the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. So he speaks to like there's something that we can be doing in like all the time we can be spent being busy. There's usually one thing that we can put all our focus into that makes everything else, unnecessary, or it's just by far less important. So it's the piece here is focus and prioritizing. So in fitness, there's some things that matter far more than other things. But sometimes we get lost in the weeds. Like if you're spending all this time on your fitness, but you're focusing on, eating carbs after 6 p.m. and you're getting super frustrated about that, or you're focusing on, white rice or brown rice. But then in the overall, like you could put all this time into those kind of topics or all this mental stress, but you get nowhere. Or you could put it into, the one thing that matters. And often that's going to be calorie balance, thermodynamics. So the one thing, another book this is the current book that I'm reading right now, Essentialism. So the one thing by Gary Keller, Essentialism is by, last name is McEwen, I believe. McEwen. And it's kind of the same thing. Essentialism means like just focus on, I think it's like what's essential. Like cut the fluff, focus on like what is actually going to move you forward, what is actually getting stuff done. So those are big pieces. Greg, thank you so much for the donation. Or the tip, I don't know what they're called on YouTube. Appreciate you a ton. Don't have to do that, but I appreciate it. So the topic I want to talk about today is going to be, the idea of the scoreboard. So just like want to help you guys in terms of prioritizing. So when it comes to, let's say you're the CEO of a company and your business is doing $0 revenue per month right now. But you're working 80-hour weeks. What do you do? So in this case, you're so busy, but you're getting no return. You're getting no, as a CEO, you're kind of supposed to drive the company to be profitable. And if that's not happening, but you're so quote unquote busy, you're doing all this stuff, you have a full calendar of things to do, but you're not putting any points on the scoreboard for what that scoreboard is for you, then you could be doing nothing and getting the same outcome. So you can scrap that entire calendar and then go into like what is going to be stuff that moves us forward. And so, in this case, that's going to be, my point here is you may be super busy just doing the wrong things. And so it wouldn't even matter if you just went from what you're doing to doing nothing, because both you're either just being busy and going nowhere, or you could be doing nothing and going nowhere. It's kind of a wash, which, frustrating enough, a lot of people are going to be in that position. So when we talk about this from like, let's bring it to fitness. So say you're trying to lose weight. You read 10 nutrition books. Let's say 10 nutrition books. Don't eat after 6 p.m. Cook home meals 2 hours a day. But the scoreboard shows nothing. So we're doing all this stuff, spending a lot of time cooking this organic food, thinking that organic is going to be the secret to getting us lean, thinking that, each nutrition book, that we read is going to be it. The insulin hypothesis is going to be, getting us, where we want to go. It's not the calories. But when we're overwhelmed by all this information, we can be putting all this time in, but let's look at the scoreboard. What does the scoreboard say? In this case, if body fat loss, if fat loss is the goal, the scoreboard is going to be, hey, hate it or love it, the scale. And if you just don't look at the scoreboard, but you know how you're putting all this time and effort, you're like, oh, I eat healthy, or I'm doing the things, and my goal is, and I do that to lose fat. And then 9 months later, why 9 months? But like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, you look at the scale and it's like there's no change. So it's kind of like it could have been a wash. You could have been doing not much, getting nowhere, or you could be doing all this stuff and going nowhere. You're just busy. You're not effective. So what is that one thing here that we can focus on to actually get us moving? So 2 points. Number one, don't hide from your scoreboard. Know your scoreboard. We just talked about a CEO. That CEO, typically it's profitability and it's going to be revenue. Know that scoreboard. If the scoreboard is not showing success, then something must change, especially if you're putting all this hours and time into it, then the things you are doing must change, because you can only add so much to the time that you have to change those tasks. Cut the low priority stuff that has no outcomes and double down on what actually is important. I'm saying this to you guys as much as I'm saying it to myself, because I have not historically done a great job of just reviewing. Let's say, for me, I run a online coaching business. So we need to get new eyes on, the stuff, put out good information out there, new eyes of our services, our client testimonials, transformations. But if we're not getting new eyes from the content and the value that I'm putting it out there, then I need to see, review, okay, what's actually, what's hitting, what is actually gaining traction and being useful for people. What is on the flip side, people are just not watching, or it's not getting so much traction. So it's important to always be evaluating and looking at the scoreboard, because a lot of times we just stop looking at the scoreboard and then we just get stuck in a certain routine. And I've talked to plenty of people on this. They start thinking the routine of the hours they spend of working out, training, even though they're not losing any weight, which is the goal. They then start believing, oh, well, like this is just what I need to do to maintain what I got. They were here. They added 10 hours a week of training, walking, doing whatever. And then they're still here. But since they added all that time working out, now they think that, oh, if I stop working out or if I work out differently, I may lose ground. And a lot of people fear this. But oftentimes, like if you're just so busy and going nowhere, then oftentimes it's frustrating. Like sometimes you're getting just as far as if you did nothing. But let's go back into some of these examples. So back here, I said, my first point here is to look at the scoreboard, see if you're making momentum. The second thing is to change your process or your focus or the way you spend your time if you're not seeing the scoreboard change in your favor. If you're losing the game, then you got to change your actions. Or you keep running that same strategy and, the game's going to keep going in the direction that it's going, typically. I'm not a coach. Well, technically I'm a coach, but not like a sports coach or anything, but I tend to see this. Let's see another example here. Number 3, you're doing a ton of training, but not getting stronger. Something should change in terms of your training. You're putting in all this time in the gym, and let's say you want to build muscle. The outcome or the scoreboard you're going to look at before you can actually see tangible muscle change is going to be, am I moving more weight? Do I have more cross-sectional area in my muscles to move more weight? Which means you got to be hitting PRs. You got to be stronger. Typically, if you have 20 pounds more muscle, you're probably able to move a lot more weight than when you had 20 pounds less of muscle. And so, because what induces that force? It's the cross-sectional area of the muscles. And so you're doing a ton of training, but not getting stronger. So you got to change what you're doing in the gym, because you could just stop training and you'll still not be getting stronger. 4, if you're doing, all this training, cardio, cooking, reading, etc., but looking the same year after year, something's got to change. I went to a gym that was like, oh man, dating myself. I guess this was 6 to 8 years ago. Graduating college 2016, 2017. Yeah, 8 years, I believe, ago. And I was at this gym. It was catered towards, more of an elderly population, but I kind of saw, how the personal trainers were doing their thing. It was more of a conversation rather than the actual like doing the work was getting anyone anywhere. And it struck me, I went there, I think, for about a year, but people weren't making progress. They weren't adding weight. They weren't really working too hard. And I bet they were looking the same. There weren't really tangible changes, but they were consistent in showing up. But they were showing up to just have a conversation. So then that person could get a different trainer that's, more results oriented. And it's like, maybe they enjoy it less because, hanging around the leg extension, doing some of these with barely any weight, but just having a nice conversation about how the weekend was, that can be the value of the gym for some people. Totally cool. Do your thing. But if someone wants results, if building muscle, if losing fat is important to somebody, then you have someone who's results oriented. They're going to push you to get stronger, to add some weight, to eat some differently, to do different things if that actually wasn't leading to the result. So when we look at the scoreboard consistently, we know if we're actually going somewhere, and we know when we need to change our coach or when we know to change our plan, etc. So this is why it's very important to not hide from the scoreboard, but look at the reality. And I'll tell you again, like in my perspective, like, social media, engagement, all that stuff, it's a part of having an online business in 2024. If I were a business coach, if I'm a fitness coach, if I were, just an influencer in general, you got to look and see, what am I doing? Like, what is the scoreboard telling me? Like, what do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? Where do I spend my time? Which circles all the way back to the book, the kind of story of the one thing. There's typically that one thing that's going to be able to propel you further when you just zero in, ignore everything else, and just dial in and do that one thing. So the power of, prioritizing and effectively focusing. And so with that being said, a segue too on that is, this is episode 20 of FlexRx. So from here, I'm actually going to be putting FlexRx on pause, on freeze for the time being. I mean, the goal kind of with the FlexRx, this is where we're all about, learning. It's about fitness, learning, enduring, on our way to excellence. And with that said, I've had a lot of fun with these lives. I do enjoy these. These have been all, I'm looking at them. We have 20 episodes, doing about 45 minutes every time. And let's be realistic in terms of like the scoreboard. Haven't seen engagement increase massively. I feel for the people that are able to be on these live, there's been a good amount of value. That's my goal. That's what I would hope. But as far as, moving forward, I feel that if I am able to utilize my time more, maybe can use this time, because this is a time-consuming thing, to put in more deep work, push other pieces of my business to improve them, to have that time to really be uninterrupted and growing things and learning. I think that I can have more impact over the long term. So for the time being, may hop on some, YouTube lives, probably going to be able to fill that time with more, content creation for my other platforms. Lives also potentially being on Instagram, and just doing, kind of some other things as well, but could be popping on these as well there. So that is my announcement there. Now let's get into some Q&A. Yeah, we have I'll get into this. Well, no, this is funny. But Wolf Pina, I think I have the biggest hater ever. Shout out to Wolf Pina. And I think some people like when your whole purpose is just to hate on people and you follow them just to kind of like give negative comments, it's kind of like, that's a sad existence. But I did get the double middle finger emoji from our best friend down there. So other questions we got is going to be from Greg. What do you think of muscle resensitization? It's some crazy trend that sounds fake to me, but it's the idea that you take extended off from lifted to when you're returning make big gains. Yes, but this is kind of like resensitization is a thing, but temporarily what's going to happen is when you do a reduced volume period, it's going to be able to allow the body to resensitize to a certain stimulus. So it's kind of like if you do a diet break when dieting for a long period of time, your body, be it physiologically, just gets kind of resistant to a calorie deficit. Maybe it's slowing down a little bit. I think that a lot of times we overemphasize that, and it's not that drastic. But also psychologically, if you're dieting, let's say for like 20 weeks, you're kind of getting annoyed with it. You're feeling lethargic and just like you may want some time off. The refreshing period of having 2 weeks at like a diet break can be helpful for that long-term adherence. So similar with like muscle resensitization, if you're doing high volume phases and then you go into, let's say, a 3 to 4 week strength block where you bring your rep ranges down, lift a little bit heavier, you bring your sets down a little bit, your volume down. This allows you to now work a little bit more on overall strength. So if you're more in that 1 to 5 rep range, train a little bit heavier. And that's going to allow your muscles to resensitize to hypertrophy. So then when you bring that volume back, you're probably going to get pumps like you did, when you first threw that high volume session or training at it. I know that Renaissance Periodization, they're big fans of these. We do them in HFP, and I think that they're pretty effective. And I feel like it's kind of, it's variety is the spice of life, but it's also dependent on like how often do we give variety. Variety every week is too much. So if we change up our exercises or rep ranges every single week, too much, in my opinion. But if we do the same exact thing for, let's say, 12 months, too little variation. I feel like that's going to get stale, and then we're going to get tired, and we're probably going to get a mental resistance to training because we're just not going to enjoy it as much. So there's definitely an in-between somewhere where it's going to be useful to have that variation or that variety. So I like to say, a training block being, high volume hypertrophy for like 12 to 20 weeks, and then maybe doing a 3 to 4 week strength block in between, just to kind of like allow resensitization to take place. So I'm kind of in the camp. I think that it's a good use to do. And I think over the long term, if anything, it just makes training more enjoyable. And I think it could be, more effective overall. And I know some people for muscle resensitization, they'll just do a deload followed by an entire week off. And there's a value to having a week off probably every, one, maybe 2 years of training. I think we kind of are all at some point forced to have a week off. So the beauty of that is a lot of high level people will plan that week off of training. So if you miss a week of training, it's not that big a deal. A lot of people structure in a complete week off, and that's helpful for them long term. The joints recover, like really give them just zero for a little bit of time, and that can be very helpful. So I think that there is some value to that, and that's a really good question. Yeah, a month off total, that sounds like a lot. I know an active rest phase typically is just a deload. So you do like 2 to 4 easy sessions at like 50% volume, not super intense, and then maybe 1 week completely off. But that would be something you would do maybe once a year, maybe once every 1 to 2 years. But yeah, a month off, I think. What was it? Kevin Levrone, I think was his name. There was a bodybuilder that did very well, had an incredible physique, and I think it would take like 6 months off a year. This is also in the non-drug tested realm. So, extra like Mr. Olympia competitor. But I mean, insane genetics, but also, would take off pretty much like 6 months a year and still was at like the top level. So you can always argue like, okay, would he have been better if he didn't take 6 months off? I mean, I am very inclined to believe if he trained maybe 9 months a year, he'd be in a better spot. But maybe, especially in that realm, that could be something where, it's so taxing on the body to compete in the non-drug tested realm that maybe that time was effective for him. And he came out of his career in competitive bodybuilding with minimal injuries and health issues. So there's always that kind of piece too. How do you stay motivated and keep the momentum going? So for me, a lot of times it's opportunity cost. Like I have this opportunity, and that's kind of why, like, I know because it's kind of weird. I'm doing a marathon prep. I always said like, I have no inclination to do a marathon. Just not something I would be into. And then just randomly on a whim, Nicole's like, oh, I'm going to do a 10K. Like, I kind of want to do that with some of our friends because they brought it up. I was like, oh, I'll do that with you. If you're into it, I'll do it. And I was like, oh, might as well do a marathon. And now we're here. But I know when I'm 70, when I'm 75, and my knees are beat, my arms are smaller, I may be getting around a little slower. I know I want to be able to look back and be like, damn, I really cashed in on my potential. I did some tough things. I really like kind of saw what I was made out of. I didn't hide from challenges. I sought challenges out, and I really, did some cool stuff. That's kind of what I want to be able to say when I'm like 75. So with that being said, how do you stay motivated? For me, it definitely is a piece of the opportunity cost. And I know when I get up in the morning, it is, and this is even, this can be in business, this can be, in lifting, this can be in running. I get up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I want to go back to bed. These covers are so warm. And I'll give you guys something that I think will be impactful in a second. And I know that I can only get so much progress in a week. But I know if I'm taking days off that were planned to have work done, then it's kind of like, okay, you're sacrificing some of your potential because you're not following the game plan. Yes, days off are important. Rest days, I show up to the gym sometimes and I drive home. But my point is, more often than not, you're going to have to get through those really tough, difficult days. And so something that I really like, if anyone's heard of Marcus Aurelius. So I made this, you can change your background. And so I have like a secondary background that I like to put on late at night. And so this is just an excerpt from Meditations. And I'll just read a little bit out of it. And I think that this is like some of the best motivation that I've gotten from like the morning. And so this is like if you wake up, whenever you wake up, because waking up always sucks. So this is something from Marcus Aurelius, because I'm reading Meditations right now. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do, or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm. But it's nicer here. So were you born to feel nice instead of doing things and experiencing them? Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants and spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can? And you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? But we have to sleep sometime. Agreed, but there's a limit on that. And that's kind of like, there's a page of this. I believe it was also in Daily Stoic, but like that is something in the morning, if I'm really feeling down or if I really am not motivated, it's kind of like, hey, the spiders outside aren't sleeping in. The flies outside, the bees pollinating the flowers, they're doing their thing. So I feel that was actually something in the mornings that I really like to just like blast brightness to 100. And like, if I'm trying to sleep in or something, then like hit myself with that. It's like, yeah, you weren't born to sleep all day. You weren't born to sleep until, 10 a.m. You were born to do stuff. And so the stuff needs doing. And so that's a little bit of my feelings on motivation, and that those help me through those tough days. Do you allow yourself multiple off days or stick to a strict routine? I stick to a relatively strict routine. So Monday through Thursday, I wake up at like 4:15 a.m. I'm in the gym, trying to be there around 5:15, and I train until like around 7. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm usually up probably around 5 to be at the gym at 6 because it opens a little bit later. And so that's kind of my routine. And now with runs, I'm trying to close that gap from when I finish training lifting. And then that gap, I want to be small so I can get my next training session being running. I try to be pretty, quick between those, because I don't want to have like do my workout, chill, or get into a work swing, and then I have to unwork swing, go work out again, and then get back into a work swing, or then I'm relaxing. So I just want to kind of compartmentalize my days, because it's always the startup costs that are kind of some of the most expensive time-wise things. When you get into work mode, like stay in work mode as long as you can, because you already got into it. If you're in the workout mode, like might as well get all your workout stuff done. Because when you have to amp yourself up multiple times for like the same thing or task switch, it's pretty inefficient. Do you allow yourself multiple off days? So my off days are as need be. I have 2 off days a week from running. So that's Monday and Thursdays. If life demands, I'll figure out my schedule. Like last weekend, I was on a hike, so I could not do my run Saturday. So I just put it on my rest day, which would have been Thursday. So I just ran through it. Allow yourself multiple off days. On the lifting front, I try to get into the gym every day. And then usually there's going to be there's around one day, I'd say on average, where I'm just like, I don't have it today. Let me go home. Or I realize it in bed and I'm like, all right, this is going to be that rest day. But if I get 5 sessions in a week done of lifting, I'm happy. 5-6 days, I'm pretty good. It doesn't have to be every day, but I know that I'm going to have those days. Because as a wise person once said, everybody has those days. Everybody makes mistakes. I forgot who it was, though. I think it's Taylor Swift, but I'm not positive. If someone can correct me. All right, how's running going? How much longer are you training for, and what's the end goal? So I have 3 obstacle courses, so 3 Spartan races, trying to get my trifecta. Shout out to Mike, one of our HFP members. We're doing a couple of those races. So the trifecta for Spartan races is a 5K, 10K, and I think it's a 20K. So in freedom units, that is 3 miles, 6 miles, and then I think 12 miles, so like a half marathon. And then I think all of them have like between 20 and 30 obstacles. My elbow is still not 100%, so I'm kind of going to be risking it all with our first one, which is at some point during August. So that's going to be interesting. But that is something. So I want to do in this calendar year, get the trifecta. If you do all 3 of those races in the same calendar year, you get this cool medal, and it's got like 3 different things. So that's one goal for this year in terms of this running side quest. So obstacle courses. The other piece is I'm doing a marathon, which is going to be October Atlantic City Marathon. That is going to be October 20th. So I'll be running 26.2 miles, and we'll see kind of what time I can get. You know, if I can get in the mid 3s, I'll be pretty happy about it. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But that's pretty much the goals for running, and then I'll probably pick another side quest for next year. And some of the cool things that are like on the docket, I mean, CrossFit, I definitely want to give that a go and see how good I could get at that in terms of like, in terms of getting that in there. Because they have CrossFit, it's kind of cool how they do it. I'm a video gamer. I used to play a lot of video games. So I love how they have like here's the workout, go film yourself doing it, and then, you know, give us your time. And so we have proof. And then you kind of see where you stack up. I used to play a lot of competitive video games. So that kind of piques my fancy. Golf, I live pretty close to a golf course. So like that's something where, you know, maybe I hate golf right now. It's so frustrating. But if you take the time to get good at something, if you make it your one thing, the idea of the side quest is because of pretty much the book, The One Thing. Because I believe, let's say it's jujitsu. If you do jujitsu once a week for 1 hour, it's going to take you a long time to get better. But if you did 5 times a week, you're going to get better faster. Is it 5 times better? Actually, no. It's going to be like 10 to 20 times faster. And because when I was doing jujitsu, because you'll learn something on Monday, and then you forget what you learned by the next Monday, and then you have to relearn it, and then you drill it, and you're like, you vaguely remember. When you're doing things in succession, when you're doing like, oh, Monday jujitsu, I learned a new thing. Oh, Tuesday I have to practice it. Thursday I practice it. You don't have time to forget it. So the point of the side quest is like when you commit very consistent time consistent time into building a new skill, it compounds that skill much faster. And depending on like what it is, that capability can grow pretty quickly too. So, crap, I've totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, so golf is one that could be on there. Like I hate it right now, but that's because I've played only like twice. But if I gave it like, let's say 3-4 times a week, I think it would get that compounding skill growth. What other side quests are there? I mean, pickleball could be cool if I really committed to like doing 2 lessons and like 2 sessions a week. So there's things here when you start thinking in like these, if you do something 3 to 5 times a week, like an hour or 2 hours at a time, you can get pretty darn good. I looked at my calendar because the runs are getting so long that I have to like actually schedule them. And I'm doing like, I think 30 miles. So I'm doing like 6, I think even more than, even be doing more than 30 miles now, but that's like 5, 6, 7 hours worth of running. And there's like, you don't just like teleport from the office in there. You got to get your sunblock on, you know, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But that's kind of some of the side quests I have in mind. What else we got? What have you already accomplished this year? What have I accomplished this year? Ran a badass retreat in the Smoky Mountains for HFP. My coaching company was awesome. We did some whitewater rafting. That's probably like the highlight so far. We got our next retreat coming up in Denver. Super excited about that. Aside from that, I ran a 10K competitively. I think I did like 47 and a half minutes. That was like after a month of run training. I think that I'm genetically predisposed or genetically built for running because I'm a grindy lifter. So like running, I think has been something that kind of comes naturally. My best ever mile was 5:58 back in high school when I was playing football. And I don't think we were super consistently running. So I'm very interested to see how quick I can get at that. What else have I done so far? I mean, this is kind of the side quest just came up. So I did the 10K January. I mean, turned 30. Yeah, it's tough. I would have to like write out what happened. I did a public speaking thing that was like pretty big for me at like an event. So that was kind of cool. Outside of that, yeah, I finished my bodybuilding show. I think I did a couple of pickleball tournaments maybe earlier in the year. Yeah, I think that's, I really have to look so far this year. You get lost in the weeds pretty quickly. But aside from that, I think we did some snowboarding. Yeah, so there's nothing really that I'm like, that happened except like the 10K that I've done so far. And now it's just kind of been that prep for that marathon. Golf is okay. Ooh, man on the moon. I like you. Golf is okay, but disc golf is where it's at. Actually, I think we have a disc golf course that's like 15, 20 minutes away. And so that looks pretty fun. Ultimate Frisbee was actually something I was playing actually like more of that early in the year that you bring that up. Love Ultimate Frisbee. But I feel like it's not, I don't know if it's popular enough to have a structure where like you go you do 3 to 5 sessions a week, unless like there was like a certain club or something. But like in Jersey, there's like a Princeton club that meets up that I met up with and played only once. But disc golf could be really cool. The issue there is like it's so niche that like is probably not too many participants that like, I think the skill of golf also is like a really big social skill because a lot of people speak golf or like my brother-in-law is getting big into golf. And so we just hiked together and he was like, yo, I've done a lot of important conversations on the golf course, but definitely disc golf. I think for the love and the fun of it, that would be fun. Speaking of love and fun of it, pickleball, like things that I've done that I genuinely just enjoy and just like I'm really just locked in on it. Like pickleball is something where I just get genuine joy from playing. Ultimate Frisbee, I would say, is like just a genuine joy thing. So I'd like to probably get something like that in the athletic realm. That would be cool. But yeah, disc golf. And then also when we're talking side quest, I do, before I die, want to do an Ironman. And I said want. I'm not saying I'm committed to it yet, but those are 20-hour like training weeks. And I'm not trying to not have big biceps when I cross the finish line of an Ironman. So like I'm going to be lifting on top of that. But that's definitely something I want to do at some point. But like when I say that, I think that's very important to say. Like I just said, oh, I want to do an Ironman before, before I pass. And that is, but that's not to be celebrated. I mean, it's just like I said, there's something I want to do. So I have friends and I have acquaintances in my life, but I'll say like, all right, I'm prepping to do a marathon. Like, oh, you're going to do a marathon? And it's like, they're like, that's so impressive. It's like, but I didn't yet. The thing to celebrate, the time you celebrate is once you've completed the thing. So I'm not too big on like, celebrating, just setting the goal. I'm about, celebrating, accomplishing, or doing the thing. But yeah, like putting in the time and all that. I think that it's important to set goals, but I don't think that should be your big celebration of saying like, I'm going to run a marathon. It's like, no, like you have probably 400 training miles to get done. So like, you got to get outside. All right, what else we got? How often do you run? Right now, it is 5 days a week. I got 3 moderate runs that are kind of around 5-ish miles, between 4 and 6 miles. I have I have a long run. So I do my first half marathon. This is going to be this weekend. I think Saturday I'm planning that. So it's a 13-mile run. And also my coach said the last 4 miles, he wants me to up the pace. Was it 3 miles? The last 2, 3, or 4 miles, he wants me to speed up into like 8-minute miles, which that's going to be challenging for me. But that's actually, so that's probably going to not be a average beats per minute of 140. I'm probably going to be pushing. And then, so that's 4 of them. So we have long run. We got 3 moderate kind of easy runs right now, about 5 miles each. The long run will be 13 miles. And then I have interval day. Interval day for me is Wednesdays. I usually just do my workout, go straight to the track. This week is going to be, I think it's 10 400s with a rest. It's like 10 400s. I think I'm supposed to do a 6-minute mile pace, which is really fast for me. and then it's like a slow jog. So it's like 1 on, 1 off. And so I think with like a 1.5 mile warm up, 1.5 mile cool down. So this is going to be my hardest workout yet, and that's tomorrow. I had a 4-mile jog today, and then tomorrow is going to be brutal. But I'm excited. I'm excited for both of those because like I really get to test what I'm made of and see like what my speed could be. For someone that never works out, what is one move you would recommend? So that's like a question like, for someone who's out of shape, what's the one food you recommend? It's like there's for someone who has no fashion sense, what's the one color you recommend? It's like the thing is we don't have to choose just one. Like I can wear a blue t-shirt, I can wear a black t-shirt. But in terms of like what is one move you would recommend? Like there's no one quote unquote move that's going to do everything great and optimally. And then someone would be like, oh, well, a Turkish getup where you get the dumbbell from the floor and you're like that. And they're like, it does something with everything. It's like, I guess everything is doing something. Like all your muscles are kind of doing, but nothing's doing anything great. It's like a master, what is it? Jack of all trades is master of none. But for someone who never works out, what I would recommend is to just know the movement, just like use oppose, what is it called? Oppose resistance in multiple planes of movement. So what I would say is for someone who's never worked out, do a press, do a pull, do a squat, and do a hinge. And those are the 4 things I would recommend to do. And now it's kind of like you understand the movements rather than like, one specific exercise. I would do one in those 4 kind of categories because your presses are going to hit your chest and triceps. Your pulls are going to hit your biceps and your back. Your hinges are going to hit your hamstrings and glutes. Your squats are going to hit your glutes and quads. And so, oh, well, you're missing your forearms, but they're going to be worked in your back stuff too. Or, your traps may not be, but it's like these are going to give you the big compound movements that are most likely to just not overwhelm you because I'd love to give you like a 20 exercise weekly routine. But I'd say for people that are new to training, just get really strong in those 4 planes. Again, one press, one pull, a hinge, and a squat. I'll give you examples of each. For the press, I would do dumbbell incline press. So dumbbells, get on an incline press, hit those 4 sets of 10. For your pull, a chest supported row. That could be seal rows on that same incline dumbbell, incline bench. Or I would do it probably a machine. If you have a good chest supported row, that's where your chest is supported against the pad and you're able to hit rows. 4 sets of 10. Third thing would be, let's go into a squat. I'd start most people with a goblet squat. You have a dumbbell here, you hold it like that, and then you do your squats. And that usually is an easier way to train proper technique if you're new. 4 sets of 10. And then for our hinge, these can be more challenging to learn, but like a Romanian deadlift, so it's kind of like a stiff leg deadlift. I would say do those maybe 4 sets of 8 because your grip strength is going to be a limiter. But that is where I recommend for most people to start. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Cool. And we got through all our questions. Really good questions. Again, the announcement for today is this is going to be, FlexRx is going to be on pause for the time being. So I may pop on YouTube for some lives. I'll see how things play out. Maybe I'll pop on to Instagram a couple times for lives. But tomorrow morning, I will be doing a live with one of our HFP graduates still in the program, Eric, absolutely crushing it. So that transformation should be coming up today or tomorrow. As well as that live. So super excited for that one. But thank you guys for watching. We'll talk to you all very soon. I'm sorry, Jesus, I do not speak Spanish, and I just see that you are 40. Somebody is 47 years old. So you may want to DM me. But have a good one, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. Bye.